Hello, my name is Michael Lambert, and today I'd like to talk a bit about immigration because of all the craziness that is Brexit. Our new immigration policy is the absolute craziest of all. For years now, for many, many years, a lot of people from the EU have come to the UK to work. We've all come across them. Look at the hospitality industry, look at so many different industries, the care industry, nurses, doctors, people working in all different types of industries have come here in order to, sometimes to learn English, sometimes to make some money. For example, all those who work in Lincolnshire digging potatoes and so on, they're mostly from Romania and Bulgaria, and they've come here because money is better here and they can send some money back to their families and so on. But all these people have been very well integrated, never caused any trouble. They've contributed much, much more in taxation than they've ever taken in benefits. And the whole idea, in fact, that anybody should come here to claim benefits or to use the NHS and that's the reason for coming is just complete nonsense. It always has been. So until now, anybody has been able to just come here and get a job. Now everybody says, oh, this free movement, that's quite wrong, shouldn't be allowed to, but they forget the fact that, of course, British people have also been able to go and work all over Europe, 26 countries, 27 countries. And so it's been reciprocal. Some of these immigrants have stayed in the same way that some English people, British people have gone to live in Spain. And some have just come, such as all the people who work in hospitality, for example, all the people selling coffee and costas and all the rest of it. They've come to learn English with a bit of experience. They're almost all youngsters. And a great experience it is, just like the Erasmus was a fantastic experience for many, many students. But of course that's all gone now. And what has happened now is that we brought in this new, we've stopped freedom of movement. And the result of that is that no unskilled workers can come to the UK unless we desperately need them. What we want to do is to just pick and choose from around the world the brightest and the best. That's, of course, taking for granted the fact that everybody in the world wants to come and live in the UK. And even for the brightest and the best, it's going to be very difficult to come here. You have to demonstrate, you have to have a sponsor first of all, and your sponsor has to register with the government. You've then got to demonstrate that your qualification is acceptable. I don't know how they're going to judge that. You've then got to demonstrate that you speak English. If you've got a PhD, you've got a better chance of getting in. But really, it's a little hassle. And then when you do eventually get granted access to or entry to the promised land, you've then got to fork out £680 odd a year for healthcare, and you've got to fork out for your visa, and you've got to fork out for this, that, and the other, and also you've got to show you've got enough money to live on when you're here. So it's been made very, very difficult. The whole policy is anti-immigration, particularly anti-EU immigration. Now the result of this is, and this has been exacerbated by COVID, the result is that all these Europeans who'd come here temporarily have all gone home. And they can't come back, and they're not coming back. So the result is that there are shortages in all sorts of industries. We're hearing about it all the time. The hospitality industry is just beginning to try to open up. They're really, really having trouble because they can't get staff. Care homes are short of staff. The NHS is short of staff. Only last week we were talking about lorry drivers, the shortage of lorry drivers. The construction industry is short of staff. And we know about the people trying to dig potatoes, or the guy with his daffodils down in Cornwall couldn't harvest them because he couldn't get the labour. So we've created, with this immigration policy, huge shortages in all sorts of industries. Now, of course, apart from anything else, all these people who are working here were all paying tax, so that's all forfeited as well. We're not getting tax from these people anymore. Now there's a broader issue here, which is this, that all over the world, in the more advanced countries, throughout Europe and America, and particularly in Japan and Korea, for example, we are ageing populations. And at the same time, birth rates are falling. So we are producing fewer children to come into the workforce. And people are living much, much longer and need supporting for much, much longer. Whereas once upon a time you'd retire at 65 and you'd be dead by 75. Now you retire at 65, you might have 30 years of life left. And a lot of that life might require care. So our populations are becoming much less viable. The fewer people there are earning money and paying taxes, the less tax is coming in. And there's only one way to solve this, and that is to make up the workforce with more people. And how do you do that? Use immigrants. We need immigrants. We are going to need immigrants. We're going to need immigrants to do all the jobs that the people we've kicked out from the EU, the jobs they were doing. We're going to find immigrants somewhere else to do those jobs, because by and large, a lot of these jobs are jobs which British people don't want to do. British people, generally speaking, don't want to come out of school and say, oh, I know what I want to do. I want to go and work in a care home and wipe old ladies' bottoms and change old men's nappies and do cleaning. They don't want to do it. People come out of school here, they don't want jobs where they have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go and dig fields in the rain and the wind in Lincolnshire. Don't want those sort of jobs. This is jobs that we've taken for granted foreigners will do until now. But of course we've got rid of all the foreigners. And so where are we going to find all these immigrants from? Well, the whole world knows that we are absolutely desperate for trade deals. The whole of Brexit falls apart if we don't get more trade deals. And until now, there's that rather sad little Liz Truss beaming on herself, the arch Remainer, Liz Truss, running all around the world, getting deals. She's got 60 so far. Every one of them replications of deals we had when we were in the EU. She's got a lot more to get now. We're not going to get a deal with America. They're not going to give us a deal for years, particularly with what's going on in Northern Ireland. China, a bit difficult there, isn't it? What with Hong Kong and what with the Uyghurs and so on, in the way that China are throwing their weight around everywhere. So that's not really somewhere we're going to get a very good deal from. And so, India. But of course, Boris Johnson was going to go to India, wasn't he? 3 weeks ago, but then COVID meant he couldn't go. But we're desperate for a deal with India. And India, like many other countries in the world, say, we might give you a deal, might not. But if we do give you a deal, we're going to want thousands and thousands of visas for our people to come and live and work in the UK. And other countries are going to do the same. You know, whereas our population is falling and we're aging, Africa and parts of the Middle East, populations are expanding like mad, and they're all young people. Millions and millions of young people. Particularly the Africans are living in places where, because of global warming, they're becoming less and less hospitable. And so there's going to be a general movement away from these countries. And of course, a lot of oppressive regimes that people are trying to escape from anyway. So it's very likely that we're going to have to replace all these European people who are coming here working as EU citizens who've never caused any problems. We're going to have to replace them with people from all over the world. Now, that might not be a bad thing, but it's incredibly destructive. And what's the point of it? Why? Are we any better off at the end of it? If you go to your Italian restaurant in 2 years' time and the waiter's a Nigerian and the cook is from Bangladesh, is that was it worth it? What's the point? Now, in addition to all this, there's the question of illegal immigration. Now, the witch at the Home Office, the dreadful Patel woman, is doing her best to make illegal immigration impossible. Completely pointless, absolutely futile. To begin with, she wanted to send anyone who arrived on our shores from France. She wanted to send them back to France or to Belgium. The French and the Belgians said right away, you must be joking. So what's she going to do with them now? Well, she wanted to set up penal colonies somewhere in other countries. That didn't really work out very well, and I think there was some legal challenge about that. So when she catches them now, it's not quite sure. I think they'll be put into some sort of prison camp somewhere in the UK. And then detention centres, they call them, don't they? And then what do you do with them? If a guy's come from Afghanistan and he's being hunted by the Taliban, do you send him back? If a guy comes from Eritrea and you know that if he goes back he's going to be executed, are you going to send him back? No, of course you're not. So there's a huge problem there with illegal immigration. But the problem is so much bigger now after Brexit, so much bigger. And I'll explain why. I have over the years travelled all across Europe and driven to Italy and back literally hundreds of times. And I've passed through Calais many, many, many times. And I've seen how over the years, you see Africans and Middle East, guys from the Middle East, hanging around the town, the street corners and so on. Lots and lots. And there was trouble with what they called the jungle, wasn't there, a few years ago. And there was Sangat prior to that. But it's always been a problem. There are lots and lots and lots of young men there who don't want to be there. They want to be in the UK. They want to leave. Now, whilst we were members of the EU, France was really obliged to cooperate with us to stop these people leaving, and they did to a certain extent. And crossings, illegal crossings, were quite few, relatively few. But now the French have no reason whatsoever to keep these people here. Why would they keep immigrants there who don't want to be there and who they don't want to be there? The citizens of Calais are not happy that there are all these guys hanging around their streets and sleeping in the streets and having to be taken to the hospital if they get ill and paid for by French taxpayers, especially knowing that all they want to do is to get to England. So the French authorities are obviously turning a blind eye. Let me just read you some figures. This is from Migration Watch. The number of illegal immigrants that crossed the Channel between January and April in the last 4 years. 2018, 7. 2019, 288. 2020, 972. This year, since Brexit, 2,385. That's only the ones we know about. Imagine this. Supposing on the beach at Calais there's a big rubber dinghy and there are 20 guys about to get into it to set off for the UK. What possible reason would the French authorities have to go and stop them leaving and say, no, stop, don't go, come and stay back in our town, hang around our town for another 6 months? Of course they won't. They just turn a blind eye. So the problem, no matter how much Nigel Farage in his corduroy trousers and his smart sports jacket goes and stands on the cliffs in Dover shouting at all these little boats, there is no way we're going to stop them. They're going to come and come and come. And when they arrive, they'll either come straight through and get into the illegal market and get jobs where they're not on the record, or they'll be rounded up and put in prison camps by Mrs. The witch at the Home Office. The whole thing is absolutely, utterly crazy. The idea that we can stop this illegal immigration when we haven't got the cooperation of France or Belgium. It's almost as though the government has said, we have to find scapegoats. We have to have a group, a community to target, to victimise. And we've chosen the EU and people who come from the EU. And by sending them all back, we're just making a huge, huge problem a lot worse. And to give you an idea of the hostility we are creating within Europe, there was a girl who arrived a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't much in the papers in the UK. It was all over the European papers, everywhere. Germany, I've read it in Germany, Italy and France, all over the papers. She arrived at Heathrow and she was going to stay with her brother, who lives in England. She was 21 years old, this girl. Her brother had given her a letter saying that she was coming to England to be an au pair for his children. Customs officials, who have absolute discretion in these matters, decided that she was coming here to work illegally. All her possessions were taken away from her. Her phone was removed, and she was put in a single room on her own for 3 hours in Heathrow. After that, she was taken to a prison. It was described as a prison, a detention centre, barbed wire, locked doors, everything. And she was kept there for 12 hours. Without any possessions, without a telephone, without any way of communicating with her brother or her family in Italy. The next morning, after 12 hours in a cell, she was taken to the airport, under guard, put on a plane, and her passport was stamped deported. So wherever she goes in the world now, she's got a deportation stamp in her passport. This girl, she said she was in tears all the time. This is a 21-year-old arriving in the UK with a letter which was not to the liking of a customs officer. This is how we're treating people from Europe. And do you not think that all over Europe, people who read that story and are going to want to reciprocate, are going to hate us for it? Now, this girl was not a single incident. While she was there, she said she met another girl, another Italian girl, who'd been there in a cell on her own, without a phone, without any possessions, for 5 days. This is how we're treating innocent young people arriving here if they don't have the right paperwork. Now, I'm sure Mrs. Patel will be absolutely delighted. Just showing these foreigners, these dreadful, dreadful foreigners, who's who and what's what. But this is madness. This is insanity. We're destroying, we've already become a laughing stock. We've gone from being a laughing stock to being hated. And for what? Yeah, there's a lot of talk about holidays now, isn't there? Everybody wants to go on holiday to France or to Italy. Frankly, and I love Italy and I love France and I know both countries extremely well, I wouldn't set foot in France or Italy right now, because the enmity that must be brewing towards us, the trouble we've caused. Look at the French fishermen. Jersey messed about giving them their licenses, so they complained about it. It's all their fault. Brave them all the time. We entered into an international contract with them over the withdrawal agreement, the Northern Ireland Protocol, and then we decided we'd break it. And we're behaving like hooligans. We're absolutely destroying our reputation, and with it is going to go our economy. And at the same time, you get the Governor of the Bank of England saying that he expects within the next 8 months, before the end of this year, we are going to have the biggest economic boom we have ever had in 75 years. Where's it coming from? Can't export to Europe. We've short of workers in one industry after another. This is madness. This is absolute madness. But anyway, that's what I think about it. And if you've watched this far, thank you very much for watching. And until next time, bye-bye.